Okay, so uh, thank you all for joining this night's meeting. I should have happened earlier, but we're caught up in other things. Um, so tonight is about still talking about swine nutrition, which is always a very serious area for big farmers. The idea of how to feed pigs to get the best results. That is one challenge that a lot of farmers continue to have. Um, Feeding pigs account for more than 75% of your expenses, whatever thing you're going to spend in pig farming. Nutrition of cost of feeding takes a huge chunk of that. It is important for you to know the right approach, how to feed pigs, not just how to feed pigs to get the results, but also how to um, feed pigs sustainably. Because it's one thing for you to feed animals and the animals are doing well, but from a financial point of view, you are spending a whole lot of money. One of my um, favorite analysis is to look at the current price for pig meat, live pig. On average, the current price is somewhere around 1,000 to 1,100 on average. You know, so if, for instance, you spend about almost 800 naira or 900 naira to produce 1 kg of weight, 1 kg of added weight. And then you add all your sundry administrative expenses, salaries, and all that. You might end up discovering that you've not really made profits. So that is one of the problems that farmers are facing. And then we know that from experience, a lot of farmers don't do this calculation. So that's why you see that what's the average lifespan of a pig farm? Most times it doesn't last too much because it comes to a point in time when you are no longer able to meet up with your feeding commitments and have enough sufficient profit to plow back into the farm. So that's just how serious the feeding issue is. It's actually very serious. So my approach when talking about feeding pigs is usually two parts. The first part is to know what the animal needs, and the second part is to find locally available materials, also to optimize the efficacy of these locally available materials. That's the two approach. So you need to know from the basic thing, this is what the animal needs. And you also need to know how you can apply this sustainably, so that you don't shoot yourself in the foot. I see a lot of farmers, maybe having just 5 pigs or just 10 pigs. So they are able to feed these animals well. And then they start, talking about nutrition and all of that. When you find yourself in an expansive farm venture where you have over 200, 300, 400 pigs, then you really come to terms with that reality of commercial and pig production. So our discussion really is on a commercial level. So no discussion on pig farming is complete without talking about the pig's digestive system. And that's the reality. No discussion on pig farming is complete without addressing the issue of pig's digestive system. If you understand the anatomy of um, pigs in terms of their digestive organs, then you would be able to understand how best to approach their feeding. So basically, pigs are monogastric animals. You know, pigs are monogastric animals. What this means is that pigs have a one stomach. Okay, so pigs share a lot of human beings, especially the digestive system. They have a digestive system that is very similar to that of human beings. You know, so they have one stomach compartments. So if we talk about monogastric animals, we can put it on the other side. The opposite of monogastric, you have polygastric animals or ruminant animals, such as cattle and sheep. And what these animals have are multiple stomach compartments. So pigs do not have this kind of stomach compartment. They have just one stomach chamber. So what is the implication for having this kind of stomach system? The implication, of course, is that pigs cannot effectively digest fiber. You know, pigs cannot effectively digest fiber. Um, Effective nutrition has to be well processed. Effective feed has to be a feed that is well processed so that the animal can easily digest it. You know, so and if you look at the implication here, you discover that most times when farmers try to cut costs, they end up patronizing feed ingredients that has a lot of fiber. And that is the reality. We end up patronizing feed ingredients that have a lot of fiber. Unfortunately, um, these pigs cannot really effectively digest this fiber. They cannot utilize it. And as such, it may slow down their growth. You know, it may also lead to other health challenges for the animal. So what we are trying to say by talking about pig's digestive system is that fiber-based feed is incompatible with the pig's digestive system. Fiber-based feed is incompatible with pig's digestive system. That is the takeaway from this analysis. A feed that has a whole lot of fiber is incompatible with the animal's digestive system. Yes, the animal can utilize it. The animal can consume it. Yes, the animal can consume such a feed. But whether the animal can utilize it, whether the animal can digest it, becomes another thing altogether. You know, and yeah, so one of the most common feed ingredients we find in Nigeria is the palm kernel cake. I'm no stranger to the debate about palm kernel cake. About yeah, PKC palm kernel cake. A lot of people, farmers use palm kernel cake. In the southeast, we have farmers who use palm kernel cake as their main feed ingredients. Palm kernel cake and blood, palm kernel cake and cassava peel. So palm kernel cake is usually like the core components of most of the feed that we find in this part of the country. So the argument has always been, is palm kernel cake really recommended for pigs? Like, is it something that pigs can utilize, can feed on, and you can actually get the kind of results you want to get? To answer that question, there has been a whole lot of research about palm kernel cake. But the key constant is that farmers cannot and should not rely on palm kernel cake as their main feed ingredients. You cannot rely on it. And it has its own limitations for different categories of pigs. It has its limitations for different categories of pigs. Personally, I don't recommend using palm kernel cake for winner categories of pigs. I also recommend using palm kernel cake only in limited quantities, nothing more than 10% of whatever your feed formulation is. But we'll come to that part. The key point we want us to understand is that the pigs have a unique digestive system that cannot effectively process fiber. And so when farmers use a fiber-based feed, because fiber-based feed is usually the cheapest we can find in the markets. So when farmers use fiber-based feed, it is counterproductive. Too much of fiber in feed would even make it difficult for pigs to access the core nutrients. Maybe for instance, you formulate a feed, you put about 10 kg of maize, you put about 65 kg of PKC, you put about 20 kg of brewery waste, you know. So in your thinking, right, you feel that you have added a little bit of maize, which will supply the energy. But when it comes to digestion, when we get to the digestion part of it, that's PKC, that's heavy fiber you have included, has made it difficult for the animal to even access the maize, the energy in the maize which you have added. So it becomes just like a waste for the pigs. So that is one of the dangers of fiber. It will lead to low energy utilization. Fiber will destroy the pig's gut health, because of course, the kind of enzymes needed to break down fiber, the pigs don't have it. So it's just going to go there, stay in their guts, destroy it, and then you start seeing pigs having some kind of getting lean, not able to they're not getting healthy, and sometimes if it's winners, you see them start purging and having scarring and things like that. So these are some of the negative and harmful effects of pigs. So before you use any feed ingredients, it is important for you to look at the digestive system of pigs, which is similar to human beings, not like goats, not like cows that will consume a particular nutrient, a particular feed or grass. They can chew on grass, they can take it to the next stomach thing, they will still chew again until they can digest it. Pigs don't have that capacity. So we must be careful and we must take care in what we are giving to pigs. So I'm going to quickly look at um, the nutrition thing. So before going in fully into nutrition, I want to talk about factors that influence the nutrient requirements of pigs. So it is important for you to know that there is no general feed formula. There is no templates that you say, this is it. I have this formula and I'm going to apply it across board to all the pigs in the farm. That is not true. That is poor practice. And that leads to a lot of waste. Animals not digesting the feed. Your feed is just waste because you've not taken into consideration some of the factors that I'm going to outline now. So age and body weight is the first factor. Age and body weight. So you have pigs of different age in your farm. You have winners, you have growers, you have finishers. You also have pigs, based on their life cycle. Some are gestating, some are lactating. We'll come to that. So age and body weight. And I want to say this because about some times back, I went to a farm and the farmer was, he had some animals. So these animals apparently were having stunted growth because at 5 months, most of those animals were still probably about 16, 17 kilo, you know. And the farmer said they are growers, based on the age. The farmer described the animal as growers. But based on body weight, these animals are still winners. So you must be able to put the two things together. Sometimes when farmers ask for my opinion about certain feed formulation or what to give to the animal, it's okay. This winner feed you are recommending, how long before I stop using the winner feed? Can I use the winner feed for 2 weeks? Usually, my response is simple. You use the winner feed till the animal achieves a particular kilo. You use the winner feed till the animal gets to a specific weight. So you have to look at it in terms of age and the body weight of the animal. So where you know that you have a crisis is when the body weight of the animal is not in line with the age of the animal. So you have an animal that is 5 months, but the animal has a body weight of a winner. That means you're in trouble. So you have an animal of 9 months that is supposed to be going for markets if you are need to go to finish operation, and then the animal is weighing about 35 kilo. So that is a problem. So the nutrient requirement, we usually look at the body weight and the age of the animal. So we also look at genetic potential of your pigs. So yes, the genetic thing is important, and as much as possible, we always say look at the genetic potential, look at the genetics of the animal. Animals of superior genetics have a good FCR. They can actually convert feed better than animals that are of inferior genetics. So that is just a factor to consider when you are planning your nutrition. Also, you also have the physiological states, the physiological state of the animal, the physiological state of the animal. So yes, a pregnant sow has different nutritional requirements than a sow that is feeding piglets or a young pig that is growing rapidly. So you look at evaluate the physiological state of the pig. So most times, of course, you discover that you have a grower pig also that is not feeling fine. At that point in time, you know, maybe you have a winner formulation, which is usually much more concentrated than your grower formulation. To accelerate recovery, you might need to, even if it is a grower pig, you might need to go back and use the winner feed that is more concentrated to help that particular animal recover. So this is not cast in stone that because it's a grower pig and the grower pig is healed, or maybe grower pig is healed, you can actually take the winner feed and give it to the grower pig. So times like that, you factor this physiological state of the pig. Lastly, you also look at the housing condition of the animal, how you house your pigs. Pigs that are clustered together, you have high pens with high population density. You have so many pigs in one pen. That's what we're trying to say in essence. So many pigs in one pen. You discover, of course, that you have one or two super pigs that are going to be consuming a whole lot of the feed. One or two super pigs consuming a whole lot of feed. This will influence even your feeding ration. It will also even influence how you are able to spread the feed across the pen, the kind of feeder you will use, and how you ensure that every pig has equal access to feed. So these are some of the things that you need to consider. Okay, so we'll quickly talk about the nutrient requirements. I have a slide I'm going to possibly, we can send it to your email so you can look at it, but it's not complete yet. But we'll talk about everything. Yeah. So we'll look at the nutrient requirements of pigs. Like I said earlier, that pigs have a digestive system that is similar to human beings. They are monogastric. As a result, pigs require balanced nutrition to function optimally. Balanced nutrition. Um, Most times when we go to the internet, we see most of these pigs reared in Europe, and we see how well fed and well healthy these animals are looking. You look at the arms, well developed. You look at their body, you don't see the spine. These animals are looking healthy, and they tell you this animal is 100 kilo in 5 months or 6 months. The genetics supplies the infrastructure that has enabled this animal to get to a particular point. But the key thing, the 75% factor, is the kind of nutrition that is being given to these pigs. These pigs are given balanced nutrition, nutrition that has all everything, you know. So we said balanced nutrition, of course, just like human beings, is feed that contains all the nutrients in the quality, the right quantity or proportion. But then, um, in practice, balanced nutrition contains energy or carbohydrates. It contains protein. It contains fat and oil, water, and all the necessary additives in the right proportion relative to the category of pig involved. So, the nutrition must contain um, these nutrients, which is energy, protein, fat and oil, water. You must have water, clean water, and all those micronutrients. You have them like supplemental nutrients, methionine, lysine, and so on. That is, you must have these things, but these things must also be apportioned relative to the category of the pigs. That is one thing that stands out. Whatever you are doing has to be related to the category of pigs. So just like we have said, we look at pigs based on what category they fall into before we now um, start talking about balanced nutrition. So two important parts of this definition will stand out. Firstly, whatever feed that is being given to the pigs must have all the necessary nutrients, which we have just listed now. Secondly, these nutrients must be well balanced relative to the age and weight of the pig involved. Relative to the age and the weight of the pig involved. So it is important for us not just to rely on the age of pigs, just like we're all farmers. I'm sure we're all practicing farmers. And we know that there are so many cases where we have underperforming pigs, pigs that are 4 months and weighing 15 kilo or even 12 kilo. Pigs that are 8 weeks and weighing 9 kilo. Um, I've seen some farmers, an animal is what, 8 weeks, and the animal is 9 kilo, and the farmer is celebrating. We'll talk about all of this later. Yeah, we'll talk about all of this later. But I think that we need to also look at age and weight of pigs, and if you want to achieve market weight within the shortest possible time. So we'll talk about all of this. So let's talk about the nutrients first. You have energy. Energy is important, and I think we take for granted the fact that pigs require nutrients that are rich in energy. We take that for granted. We believe that, like so many farmers use a lot of PKC. And you need to understand, this particular feed ingredient that I'm giving to the pig, what exactly is this feed ingredient doing? That is always the first question I ask farmers. What exactly is this feed ingredient doing? So, when you are doing your analysis, energy is needed by pigs to perform their daily body processes and activities. They need energy to grow, they need energy to reproduce. As a matter of fact, most of the times when we see our pigs underperforming, or you look at the weight assessment and you fed the animals throughout the week. At the beginning of the week, the animal was weighing 30 kilo. At the end of the week, the animal is still weighing 30 kilo. Is simply because you've only given the animal the energy value of what it needs to survive. What you have simply done is to give the animal the energy value of what it needs to survive during this period. You've not given it any excess, anything that you say, okay, it's excess, and all that. So you've not supplied the animal the energy nutrient it needs to grow and perform, yeah, to grow. So what you have given it is just survival. You're giving the animal what it needs to survive within that period of time. So energy giving feed ingredients should form the bulk of whatever total feed that is issued to the animals daily. So out of 100 kilo, if you are formulating to 100 kilo, your energy value should be above 60%. Should be above 60% for you to get the result you want. Moderately, some farmers do up to 45%. Even at 45%, you'll be getting a good result, but it should be up to 60%. Okay, if we were to look at it, it should be up to 60%. The energy, that thing that gives energy to pigs, it should be. And then you look at it. What are those examples of energy giving feed? You have the standard of the industry, which is maize, wheat, barley, cassava, potatoes, and so on and so forth. There are also other good byproducts. Maize bran, well processed and fortified cassava peels, wheat oval to a certain level is a byproduct, can supply energy to a certain level. You also have some industry byproducts. You have bread waste, you have biscuit waste. These are byproducts. And I'm going to talk about the use of byproduct because sometimes a lot of farmers make the mistake of building their feed formulation exclusively on byproducts, which is wrong practice. So if you want to give supply energy at 60% of whatever you are formulating for the pigs, you now take the entire 60% to be cassava peels. It is wrong. You are never, no matter the research that is done on cassava peel cannot be the main energy supply ingredient. It is always used to replace the main ingredient to a particular level. Maybe they'll tell you 10%, 15% replacement, but they did not say total replacement. You cannot use biscuit waste to totally replace the main energy source. You always try to combine some of these things. There's an interesting thing to note about energy. It's interesting to note this about energy because, so there's a way we grade or energy ingredients are being graded. We have three ways of expressing energy in feed. So the first is gross energy, the second is digestible energy, and the last part is net energy. Gross energy, digestible energy, and metabolizable energy, of course. Yeah, metabolizable energy, and then we have net energy. So this analysis is important because there are so many feed ingredients that when you run proximate analysis on them, you hear them say, it's very, very rich in energy. It has a whole lot of energy. But what they're actually talking about is the gross energy, which is just, when we talk about gross energy, we're talking about the total amount of energy in the feed, So let's say for maize, for instance, maize has a gross energy of somewhere around 18.7 calorie per kilo of dry matter. That is the total energy value in maize, maybe a kilo of maize. Cassava has its own different. I'll try to run approximate analysis showing these variations here. So maybe I'll do that later. So you have this gross energy. So that is it. So you buy this gross energy, but then you now come to the second level. The animal has now consumed it. So you now have the next part we call digestible energy. So this is the amount of energy in the feed minus the amount of energy lost in the feces. So what we are trying to say simply is the amount of energy remaining after subtracting the energy that is lost from feces. So this is usually where we see a lot of the magic coming. And this is where sometimes farmers face a lot of challenges. So you buy a particular feed ingredient, and the feed ingredient, for instance, cassava, it has high level of energy. It has incredible high level of energy, you know. But what happens? The interesting thing happens when the animal consumes the cassava. So after consuming cassava now, it now comes to the digestible parts, which in many cases could be very low. So I've been in situations where people have actually questioned all of these things, and they say, but cassava is very rich in energy. And I said, look, this is the gross energy. You have to deal with the digestible energy. And then after that, you'll not even talk about the metabolizable energy, which is different. That one is urine too. Digestible energy is just feces. Metabolizable energy is urine, both feces and urine, the energy that is left after passing out feces and urine. And then net energy, the one that is left after passing out feces, urine, and in heat production through metabolic processes. So these are some of the phases that pigs pass through. So most times you might use a particular feed ingredient which you presume to be rich in energy, but sadly, after a while, you discover that the animals are not doing well. What is the reason? You need to understand that energy has gone through different stages. Gross energy is there. That is, you bought the feed. This is the energy in whatever. After approximate analysis, this is the energy. After that, the animal has eaten, consumed the feed and digested it and pass out feces. So most times, if the ingredient is not entirely digestible, it passes directly as feces. That is done. So maybe it was 18.1 before, what the digestible energy is now maybe 5. So you've lost like 12.1 calorie per kilo. After that one, now the animal will still urinate. Energy will pass through. After that, the animal will still produce heat. So this is where feed ingredients vary, and farmers must pay attention to quality feed ingredients. Just like we are beginning to pay attention to genetics, we need to pay attention to the kind of feed ingredients that we use in our farm. Oh, I really made a mistake. I did not record this. I'll try to record it. I'll try to record. Okay, so it's going to be recorded now. Yeah, mistake. Okay, so that is the important part to note about energy. So we need to go back and do our homework and then find out the best way to deal with it. So the next part is protein, right? The next part is protein. Protein is important for adequate growth and muscle development. In essence, when we talk about protein in swine nutrition, we're usually talking about we're talking about amino acids, because amino acids, they're like the building blocks of protein. So when you give that blood meal or you give that SBM to pigs, what they are actually synthesizing, their body will start synthesizing the different types of amino acids. So we have two types of amino acids. We have essential and non-essential amino acids, limiting amino acids, and non-limiting amino acids. So there are amino acids that the animal can, synthesize it, and there are ones that must be supplied in a supplemental form to the animal's nutrition. So we have essentially two types of amino acids. So the 10 essential amino acids for pigs are lysine, methionine, tryptophan, threonine, and so on and so forth. But I think the major one is usually lysine. There are 9 others. We have leucine, histidine, and all and so forth and so forth. But usually lysine, usually the major limiting essential amino acids. So in feed formulation, usually we like to build from the lysine. Okay, we like to build from lysine. So how can you supply protein to pigs? You have plant source of protein, you have animal source of protein. For plant source of protein, you have soya bean, you have soya bean, you have sesame meal, you have GNC. For animal source of protein, you have fish meal, you have bone meal, you have blood meal, and so on and so forth. There is usually something to note, when you are using animal source of protein. We usually have a certain level where we can incorporate these things in our feed. For instance, when we start talking about animal source of protein, so farmers say, okay, fine. Since blood meal is the animal source, is a source of protein, I can use blood meal as to supply everything that my winner pig needs. Well, it doesn't work like that. There's usually a certain cap you actually want to use blood meal, and the best you supplement it with other things. Also, each of these protein sources has its own level of protein. We have protein sources that are weak. Just like soya bean, for instance. So some farmers now may look at soya bean, they prefer to go to the markets and buy soya bean, come fry it, grind it, and give to pigs. So in their thinking, they are giving the animal the main soya bean. Yeah, that's usually the kind of analysis there. But the reality is, SBN, which is a processed, how do they call it? Forgotten the language now, has a higher CP than full fat, while full fat has high fat and oil than SBN. So most times we want to check most of these things and not really confuse ourselves. We need to check most of these things. It's always important when we are feeding pigs to really start studying the ingredients. Both, I know at this level, we can only study them theoretically because most of these ingredients too, they are not, most of what we buy in the market is not really what is in the book. Most of them are of low quality and so on. But at least theoretically, let us look at it and find the best option. So something like sesame meal, for instance. Sesame meal is not really a source of protein, but it's not quality. It has a good level of fiber. It isn't quality. It isn't recommended for winner pigs, and so on. When you want to start, cutting costs, there are some kind of protein sources that you can just take and give to what do they call it? And give to finisher pigs. And there are some, because of the cost of these protein sources, you want to give them to winner pigs or to your grower pigs. So that kind of analysis is important to know in piggery. So minerals and vitamins, yeah, minerals and vitamins, all good. There are so many minerals and so many vitamins that I'm not going to go and start talking about all of them at the same time. The most important thing is to look for a quality premix that can supply all of these things, because it doesn't make a lot of sense for you to go to the market to start buying leucine, tryptophan, and all of that, or start buying vitamin E, vitamin A, and so on. So if you can find a premix that has all of these things and has a reasonable inclusion rate, a realistic inclusion rate, then it's good. Another thing I want to talk about is water. So water is important. Water is the most essential of all nutrients. It's the most important of all nutrients. So you need to have a source of clean water in the farm. You have to be innovative about this thing. And sometimes if you are not having, maybe you don't have access to way of connecting water through the pen, you can get a bucket, you can install nipples. The idea is to ensure that pigs have consistent source and supply of water throughout the day. Especially, of course, pigs at different stages, they have certain requirements, certain usage of water. For instance, the lactating sow consumes a whole lot of water. If you study taking time to look at her and she has water, she would drink a lot of water. That's a gestating sow. And then, sometimes of the weather, sometimes during the weather, pigs may need to take a lot of water and all that. So quality, consistent source of water is important. So we've spoken about the nutrients. Yeah, we've spoken about the nutrients, needs, that the different types of nutrients. Energy, essentially carbohydrates, protein, um, minerals and vitamin, water. Yeah, in some literature, you will find things like fat and oil. Yes, things like fat and oil that is included. Fish oil that is included. Yes, if you can access those items, the usually problematic in our part of the country. But if you can access it, fat and oil essentially provides energy. So it is good. It is good to include it if you can access it. The goal, and I'm going to reiterate that for those just joining us, nutrition in pigs or in piggery is twofold. First fold is to try to supply as as a small scale farmer. You want to try to supply all the nutrients required by the pigs. The second fold is to do this in a sustainable manner. Yes, it's to do this in a sustainable manner. Because I've seen instances where farmers boast and brag about the weight of their pigs. The real question to be asked is, what is the cost per kilo of what you're giving to these pigs? Is it sustainable on a commercial level? Because what I discover now in piggery is people just fancy themselves as breeders. So what they do essentially is to load the animals with concentrate, with chicken feed, load them. The animal has a shiny body, and they convince unsuspecting farmers that these animals are pure. But the animal is well fed, not necessarily pure. So these are some of the things that we see, So, but you need to ask yourself, what is the cost per kilo of what you are producing? And a kilo average life weight is about 1,100 naira. So if I spend 1,000 naira to feed for a pig to get 1 kg added weight, then where is the profit there? It's no longer profitable. So you must think nutrition from two perspectives. You must think nutrition in terms of trying to supply, because it's not easy, as a small scale farmer, to supply or meet the animal 100%. You will meet there somewhere on the road. You can't go the whole haul with them. It may not be easy, especially with the kind of nutrition system we have in Nigeria. So how do you supply these nutrients? So we have 3 types or 4 ways of supplying the nutrients. We have complete feed, complete feed, where you now you start buying the energy, you start buying the protein, you start buying the premixes and all of that. That is complete feed, so sometimes we have things like this in the market. We have companies, we have Benway Feed. I think Vital Feed is producing pig feed. So most of them are producing pig feed. The problem usually is the cost. We have Teratiga too that produces pig feed and all that. So, we have complete feed. So if depending on your business operation as a farmer, you can decide to go for complete feed. We also have concentrates, so you have protein concentrates where you just easily just take it and mix it with an energy source. That is another way of supplying this ingredient. Some companies are doing that. In Eastern Africa, we've seen a lot of companies coming up that are trying to help farmers. Just to tell you, they produce a feed that has protein, that has this micronutrients. You just take it and mix it with maize bran, and case closed. We also have premixes. Premixes, of course, is instead of you bothering yourself buying all these micronutrients one by one, you can just buy premix and then you now mix it with the energy and the protein thing. So these are ways of supplying these nutrients. I'm going to quickly touch on 2 things. Yeah, so we said this before, that Each stage in the pig's life cycle development has specific nutrient needs. Okay. Starter pigs have a different nutrient needs from winner pigs, from grower pigs, from finisher pigs, and so on. Your goal is to try to recognize the stage the animal is based on the age and weight of the animal, and then you try to also supply it. So, for instance, if you really want to run a profitable pig business, you would do well to segment these things based on life cycle. You know, gestating pig, very important too. Gestating pig has different requirements from lactating pigs. And, so mostly when we try to define feeding cost in piggery, the mistake a lot of people make is there are two types of feeding costs. You have the cost of your breeding units, you know, which their feed plan is usually different from those animals that are within your slaughter unit, those animals that are grown to finish. You cannot feed a gestating sow with the same kind of ruthlessness or carelessness or cost wiseness, I don't know how to put it, that you will feed a finisher pig or you want to feed a lactating sow in that same fashion. You run into problems. That's when you start seeing farmers having cases of stillbirths. You're mixing cassava peels for finisher pigs, and you want to still mix cassava peel and give to a gestating sow. There are so many issues that are coming. So I'm going to touch on three key issues. Three key issues. Number one is mycotoxin, feed efficiency, feed processing. So just like I was saying, we have issues with feed quality in our country. Most of the feed we are using have so high in mycotoxins that it's difficult for you to actually get value for these pigs. It's usually difficult for you to get value for these pigs. So mycotoxin is something that you can do, and the way you would want to address the issue of mycotoxin is by using things like toxin binder and ensure that you process your feed properly, you process and store your feed properly, and you apply toxin binder to mitigate mycotoxin spread on it. Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so expected returns for quality feed formulation. What do you expect when you are formulating your feed properly? You want to maximize lean growth and minimize fat deposition. That's a quality of a well-processed feed. Lean growth, and lean growth, opposite of lean growth, you don't have you have fat, so you don't want to have fatty pigs. So that's quality pork. There was a time I shared on the group fatty pig. Yes, it could be that that pig is the design of the farmer. Maybe the farmer wants to produce oil or things like that. Yeah, so that is sometimes that is usually the design of the farmer. Yeah. So, but if you are into commercial selling pigs for slaughter and all that, you want to produce feed formulate feed that would have lean pork for sale. You want to also improve overall growth rates. How do you improve overall growth rate? Is by producing feed to the category of pigs involved. In the southeastern part of the country, the predominant practice is PKC and blood. And this is dangerous for farmers. It is dangerous because a lot of farmers believe that farmer A is doing this, farmer B is doing this, so why do I have to bother myself to start, sourcing for so many ingredients. I've seen a lot of people kill their farm investment because of this notion. You want to copy what other people are doing. Pig farming should depend on raw data. So if anybody is using a particular feed formulation, your interest is what is your average daily gain? You know, okay, fine, you don't weigh the animals daily. So what do they add in a week? And what is the cost? So you can do that and you can determine if it is something you can emulate. And also, you cannot emulate feed formulation blankets. Just somebody in the northern part of the country is giving you a feed formulation, you in the southern part of the country. The ingredient he has access to, you don't have access to these ingredients. So you want to be retrospect in the kind of formulations you adopt. You want to be able to optimize the use of local resources. About local resources, let me quickly touch on this now before I forget. The issue of PKC. So we said PKC has a lot of fiber, but advancement in nutrition has produced things like supplemental enzymes that can improve the digestibility of PKC. You know, so it is up to you now to look at the cost-benefit analysis. So if the cost of adding a few grams of enzymes to PKC, to that limited amount of PKC you are using to improve its efficacy is more than buying the quality feed ingredients, then by all means do that. But if you look at your calculation and it is achievable to add a little bit of enzymes to improve the digestibility of PKC, then I see no reason why you can't do that. Everything is about cost analysis. You know, so maybe one farmer it doesn't use PKC and is trying to convince you not. You need to look at his understudy his formulation and the cost implication. You know, and all that. So sustain head health. Head health. So the sign of quality nutrition is usually the fact that the pigs in your farm won't be falling sick every time. I remember when we consulted for a farm in 2021. So what they were doing, they were having scores of mortality on a regular basis. And when we came in, we advised them on what to do and how to change the system. They did, and it brought down their antibiotic usage down by less than 3%. It was very minimal, you know, because if the pigs are well fed, the pen is not congested, water is clean, attendants are up and doing, then your use of antibiotics would reduce. And I think that's a problem. Quality control issues is a problem for us in the swine industry. You're always talking about drugs, injection, drugs. So farmers take it as a point of duty that we should be injecting pigs every day, every week, these are things that people are going to consume. So we need to take preventive measures, proactive measures that would prevent sicknesses before it comes. And one of such strategies is quality nutrition. Yeah, so another expected return is to reduce the pressure on housing. So if you are feeding your pigs well, they will go to slaughter on time. So that is the expected return. But where you know that you are not doing well is when the pig stays in the pen for a long time. And you say this. So if you are practicing, you want to practice a system where you are selling pigs every month to buyers, then you look at how many kg of added weight you expect from these animals in a month. How many kg? And what do you want these animals to get in a month? So if you want to sell pigs every month, and the pigs are adding 5 kilo in a month, then there's pressure on housing because there's no way these animals are going to go out to market on time. That is a factor to consider. So if the animals are well fed, another thing we have to look at, because maybe I think on day 3 of our discussion, we'll start talking about the real costs, the cost that nobody likes talking about. Some farmers are producing pigs that are 1,900. The cost of production is hitting 1,900. But they don't know because they're using substandard feeding. But if we were able to bring down this cost for them to see, you discover that you are producing 1,000, you are giving substandard feed, and the animal is staying in the pen 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, 11 months, 12 months. But next year, these things have cost implications in the business, but we don't pay attention to these things. So that's a factor. So sow productivity, very important factor, because I said that you have cost associated with feeding your breeding units. So if you feed your breeding animals properly, you improve sow productivity, which is one of the indices we use to calculate a well-performing farm. You know, you want your animals to farrow at a minimum of 2.1 times in a year, which is, and giving you, you're able to win out maybe 28 to 30, 32 piglets in a year from a sow. You can't do that with substandard feed. You can't do that with cassava peel and PKC and blood. You can't do that. You know, you can't do that. So you need to look at these factors again. So these are some of the things you should pay attention if you are, in terms of what you intend to get from that. Okay. Again, I would want to talk about, yeah. So depending on what you want to do, you have hard lip. You want to feed your pigs hard libitum or restricted feeding. You know, which one is good? Ad libitum feeding is one where the pigs have unlimited access to feed throughout the day. You know, ad libitum is good. It improves growth and productivity. You know, but it also has, it reduces labor requirements, because if you have a good feeder that is automatic, it makes things work well, but it also has its own disadvantage, because sometimes the animals might waste the feed. But if you are going with restricted feeding, where you are able to determine that what this animal requires a day is 2 or 3 kilos of feed, you are able to control the feed, control your costs, okay, and then, you know, get improved feed efficiency. What I would recommend is restricted feeding, you know, because I don't want to go through ideals in pig farming. Restricted feeding is okay. So yeah, okay. So the reality is, based on where we are in Nigeria, a lot of farmers are doing a lot of things. Farmers are both marketers, nutritionists, and all that. So they try to formulate their pig diet. It is okay, but you need to do that um, by speaking to a nutritionist that can actually guide you. A few things to note. Swine nutrient needs cannot be met with one feedstuff. It's not, there's no way you can decide to meet the energy need. You can meet the energy need by using maize, but at what cost? At what cost? So you want to aggregate a number of feed items. If it's, maybe you have access to cassava peels, you have access to maize, you have access to maize bran, you can decide to aggregate these things together to meet up with the energy requirements of your pig. So if you are doing ration formulation, it should facilitate production of balanced diets. Ration formulation should allow for the incorporation of marginal feed stuff, you know, marginal feed stuff and all of that. So that is just it. There is a formula for formulating pigs. There is a formula for formulating pigs, feed rather. There is a formula for doing that, but we're not going to discuss that. Yeah, I think this is a square method formulation. I think I'll have to discuss that in the group, maybe just to draw that. So I think I would like to get feedback from everyone. If you have a challenge on your feed formulation, we can talk about it. I can render some advice that can guide you, help you. So you can unmute yourself and ask questions. I can advise you whatever you are doing that you need to get some adjustments. We can ask questions now. We've come to the end where we can ask questions and interact. Apparently, there's no question. Does anyone have a question? We can type it to the chat box here. Okay. Okay, so I'll just ask a few questions. I'll start with Mr. Alusoji. You can unmute yourself, sir.
All right, sir.
Okay, so what do you feed your pigs with?
What we do now is we buy a starter. We buy
Okay.
starter, then we buy BDG, PKC, a couple of barley. Then we'll mix it together. We used to buy maize, but at the moment maize is something else.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what we'll do. Moment.
You do it for all category of pigs?
Yeah. At the moment, my pigs are just growing up.
All of
Some of
them are
them,
the same
some of
age
them
and
are still
weight
in the
category?
winner stage. So some of
Okay.
them are growers, and we have a couple of like 3 or 4 that we have crossed like 3 of course. So what we do, the ones we crossed, we mixed their feed with cassava peel.
Okay.
But I think on that, I think my brother is here. I think he can explain more on that because he's the one um directly in charge of the farm. Mm.
Okay.
That's me. I think you can answer that question.
Hello,
Yeah. Good. Really good.
hello.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear
Good
you.
evening. I can hear you.
Okay, the cross ones we have a separate mixture of feed for them. We
Mixture
mix
of feed for
barley.
okay.
It is separate. We don't add that the protein ingredient with their food because what we do is that because we don't want the baby to be that too big in their stomach because of when they will deliver. So that's why we didn't have that the protein ingredients. So we only mix and some percentage of barley. We had calfos, very little of calfos with it, and with beauty, and then cassava peel. That is when the cassava peel is available, sha. But for now, we are mixing beauty with barley, then little of calfos with their feed.
All right. So let
But
me just
to the rest, we have the same, even the winners and the ones that are at least a little big more than the winner. We are giving them same mixture of feed.
okay. Yeah, so there's no reason why you shouldn't add protein to
Okay.
your feed formulation. There is no reason why. it is important to say here that if your sow is was crossed at the appropriate time or the appropriate weight, then you have no reason to fear the animal having issues in terms of being able to farrow successfully. That is number one. So it depends on the weight when you are crossing these peaks. People make the mistake of crossing under weight gilts or sows of 60 kilo, 50 kilo. I have seen, just like a teenage pregnancy, you cross small sows or small gilts. That's when you have issues. Most of these animals will farrow and just die because they are young, and and a lot of factors can be responsible for that. So make sure you are crossing or serving your pig at the right time with the right weight. Number one, ensure that you provide this animal with protein source. Let's remember that she's gestating today. Tomorrow she will be lactating. One of the key benefits of protein to a lactating sow is it helps in the production of milk. And this production of milk is something that you have prepared this animal for. And that is why you see that if you are giving her quality gestating diet with the right mix of what do they call it, with the right mix of protein, then there's no reason why she would not lactate as at when due, and then you swap to a lactating diet to boost the thing. So there's a reason for everything. When we say that, and if you look at it, I'll just draw, responding to you, I'll just quickly make a final point here. If you don't feed your pigs properly, balanced nutrition, there is a cost implication for that. So if you have a lactating sow and she's not being fed for that particular performance, that particular role she's playing in your farm at that point in time, the consequences, the piglets she's nurturing, they will suck her and drain her, and she will become lean. And by the time you wean the piglets, she will have become very, very frail, lean, and malnourished. Consequently, she can never come on heat within the stipulated time of 3 to 5 days or even a week. She will need to take at least a month to recover her body condition before being crossed. If you do this constantly, you will not be able to farrow twice in a year. She won't be able to farrow twice in a year. So let's say she does 4 months of almost 4 months of gestating. She does additional, because under that condition, you cannot win at 4 weeks or 5 weeks. You might want to pursue 7 weeks. So she does another 2 months of lactating. That's 5 months gone. Then she takes another 4 weeks, sometimes up to 5 weeks to regain her body condition. That's almost half a year gone. So before you know, she is already farrowing by the last month of the year, or worse still, she takes it to the next year. You have lost a lot of money on that sow because she has accumulated what we technically call non-productive days. Non-productive days in a sow means the number of days a sow will stay without performing any function. A sow is supposed to be either pregnant or lactating, or either gestating or lactating. So when she's not gestating or lactating, it is NPD, non-productive days. And the acceptable average for non-productive days is maybe about 3 to 7 days, acceptable. But when your non-productive days start hitting 40, 50 days, then you have been feeding the sow just like that. She's accumulated a lot of cost of feeding without giving you any return on investment. So farmers must approach pig farming as a business and try to restructure their whatever they are doing. So I'll take a question. If there's no question, we can always I'll try to make an edit of our session today so we can follow up, or we can go to the YouTube. It's streaming on YouTube, so we can actually watch it on YouTube. Next week, Monday, God preserves us, we'll try to look at a lot of things when it comes to pig farm management. Managing pig farms, record keeping, cost management, putting all your costs together, determining, knowing how to take actionable steps based on all of this. So that would be a discussion
Hello,
for next week. Yes, sir.
please. I still want to ask a question. Please, I
Okay, go ahead,
am
sir.
having problem with the farm I'm managing about this feeding issue.
Okay.
Let's assume based on the level of their weight, I mean the kg for each pigs and all like that. The issue is that I'm having this kind of problem that what the real amount of or the real percentage or kg of feed that should be given to them, because we have different kind of pigs in the farm. We have pure breeds, we have hybrids, and I discovered that this hybrid feed more than this pure breed feed more than the hybrids that we have in the farm. Now, at times, I will give them feed like that, and because I didn't really know the amount of kg of feed I should give to them, at times I give them feed like that, I will still be not comfortable with that the amount of kg of feed I'm giving to them. I will be feeling like that the feed is not okay for them, because you talk of restricted feeding the other time that so I want to be sure the amount of feed that should be given to them based on their kg or the level of their weight.
Okay. So before I continue, we talked about hybrid and pure breed. Um, uh, feed feed formulation, feed rationing is feed rationing everywhere. You can't say that our indigenous pigs consume more. It really depends on your approach. I don't want to go there. It's not genetics. So now, let's talk about the weight of the pigs and the age of the pigs. I'll start from there before going to rationing. So newly weaned pigs that we generally call winner pigs or starter pigs. Depending on when you wean them, recommended wean weight is usually anything from 12 kilo, 11 to 12 kilo. Recommended wean weight. There are winners up to 25 kilo. I always emphasize 25 kilo because of our system, when we wean pigs, we always face they tend to regress a bit. They tend to regress. So if you wean an animal at 19 kilo, the animal might regress up to 15 kilo, and you start feeding 15 kilo grower feed, which is wrong. The best thing to do is to try to push the animal to 25 kilo. By that time, the survivability of the pig has improved, the gut system is well okay, and the animal is well equipped, to transit to the next level. So grower pig, I do 25 kilo up to 50 kilo. And then I do finisher from 50 or 55 up to the designated market weight in the farm. Now, what is regulated ration or restricted ration? So if you want to restrict ration for your pigs, for your starter pigs, you might want to feed an average of 0.8, average within the life cycle. it usually goes from 0.4, 0.5 to 1 kilo. So I'll take average of 0.8 because remember the animal is growing every day, so their feed consumption will definitely come up. So it goes from there up to 1 kilo. So the average in this period is usually about 0.8, 0.9 grams. That is for starter pigs. And this is when we say starter feed, farmers make the mistake. Starter feed is starter feed. If you are buying from the store, you are buying starter feed and you are using it the way it is. You are not mixing starter feed with any other thing to give to your winners. Winners go on starter feed. If you mix starter feed with PKC or anything, yes, you have diluted it, you have managed your cost, but you have just shot yourself in the foot because the advantage you wanted to gain by buying starter feed, you have just removed that advantage from your own self. What I'm trying to say is starter feed is effective when it is not mixed with anything. That is the honest truth. But if you want to cut costs, we mix it a bit. But if you want to buy chicken feed to use as a winner feed, try not to mix it. But if you must mix it, then and you want to follow my 25 kilo, up to win, you can start mixing from 20 kilo. Number 2, grower pigs. So grower pigs usually start from 1 kilo to 1.5 to 2 kilo. From 30, 35, they start doing 1.5 kilo a day. From 40 kilo, they start doing 2 and 2.5. By the time they get to 50 kilo, you're already giving them 2.5. Yeah, so, and then finisher pigs can do anything from 3 to 4 to 5 kilo, depending on how quickly you want to send them to markets. There is another way we do this thing. We say feed pigs up to 5% of their body weights. So for instance, a pig that is let's take a pig that is 20 kilo, and you say you want to feed the animal up to 5% of body weight. That's about 1 kg. You understand? A pig that is 70 kg, you want to feed the animal up to 5% of body weight. That's 3.5 kg. So that is another way of looking at it. Now, it is important in the interest of accounting to have a scale in your farm, to also have a small rubber that you use to assess, analyze, to know that this is 2 kilo. If I fill this rubber, this is 2 kilo or 1 kilo. So if you want to give 3.5, you use 3 of that rubber, and now this is 3 kilo. Half is 0.5. It's always good to have such strategies in place. So I hope I've answered your question.
Very well, sir. But
so
on that, I still want to ask one more question. That what if I have given them that the percentage of feed or the number of kilo that should be given to one pig, and after eating that the feed, the animal is still looking for more, trying to cause trouble in the farm because of maybe because of inadequate food given to
so
it.
let me add this again. When we talk about restricted feeding, we're talking about well formulated feed. Number 1, the feed has to be well formulated. So we're not saying it is not restricted feed of anything. It is restricted feed of a well balanced and formulated feed. Number 1. Number 2, you have to spread feeding times. So you can't just feed, it's not good, it's not advisable to just feed your pigs at once. You can feed them twice a day, 3 times a day. You can decide to break down that recommended feed formulation and do it twice. You can try to feed them in the morning and in the evening. You can try to feed them in the morning, afternoon, and evening. So you have a feeding time. That is one thing that is recommended. Pigs are voracious eaters. That is the reality. If they will continue, even if they are satisfied, and you still bring feed, they would like to stand up, smell the feed, take a bit of it, and go back. You can't stop them from doing that. You can't stop pigs from doing that. They will always want to do that. So what you need to do, of course, is to plan your feeding time. Plan your feeding time. Ensure that what you are doing is well processed feed. When I had a friend once that went to the internet to download feed rations, and they say feed 2.5, 1.5, and it was feeding 1.5 of wheat oval and PKC, and the animals were losing weight. All of these things is based on the assumption that what you are formulating is balanced. That is the assumption. So if it is balanced, spread your feeding, have your feeding time, do 2 to 3 times a day if you are doing restricted feeding and all that. That's it. If the animals still want to eat more, you can always try to give them vegetables. It's always good to plant vegetables in the farm. They can also, those are fringe feed, they can help to, satisfy them and all that. That's just one way of dealing with it. Okay, so we've come to the end of tonight's session. You can still, nutrition, like I said, is a big subject. There are a whole lot of things in nutrition. A whole lot of things in nutrition. I'm not going to give feed formulation because what I can tell you is for energy, it has to be the main bulk of your feed ingredients, up to 60%. You do not have to rely on one energy ingredient. You can source 2 to 3 energy ingredients and mix it together. So energy has to be at least or up to 60% for grower pigs, even finisher pigs. It has to be up to. So if I say it has to be up to, then you shouldn't be thinking of going less than 50 or 55. Protein has to be there. Winners they need protein up to 22%. You can dispense, you can vary it a bit to 20%, but they need it up to 20%. And their protein has to be highly digestible. I said that there are different types of protein sources. There are protein sources that are very rich, and there are some that are bland, very poor. So you need to look at it again. But grower pigs you can work with protein inclusion up to 18%. Finisher pigs, the secret is as the animal goes, his requirements drops. So even farmers that are having slaughter pigs of 60, 70 kilo, then there's no need again to start applying lysine. They're just wasting it. In reality, by that time, the animal has synthesized enough and the animal is destined for market. You can start removing some of those privileges. So with protein, as the animal reaches the finisher stage, you can drop it down to 12%. And by that time, the animal, a finisher pig, has a good capacity to digest fiber. That is the reality. So if, and we know that fiber is the cheapest source of feed. So as you avoid fiber in winner and you try to reduce it in grower, by the time it gets to finisher, you can now, put it in generous quantity. The animal, a matured pig, can digest it. So that is just the reality. So for farmers in different locations, they try to give this idea. Then all you have to do is to meet with your nutritionist or your farm manager. You start looking at it. If I have to supply 60% of energy, what are the sources of energy? Every feed ingredient you are bringing to your farm, what do you need to do? You need to understand what it's bringing to the table. You don't just bring in any feed ingredient because you want to. What exactly is it giving? Is it giving energy? Is it giving protein? What exactly is it giving? And then from there, what will help us to get the right result. But remember, nutrition is try to supply. You are not going to supply all. And this is the reality. This is not ideal. You may not supply 100%. You get to certain points. But also, let's talk about the sustainability of the formulation. Is it profitable if you run with this formulation? So those are the two things we should bear in mind. And that brings me to the end of tonight's discussion. You can always send me a message and always watch this video on YouTube. I'll send the link across. So thank you very much, everyone, for taking our time to listen to me tonight. We'll meet again next week, Monday, same time, next week, Monday. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, sir.
Yeah, good night.